What's up, folks? It's been a minute. It's been a minute since I did any Warhammer Combat Cards videos, so I wanted to just hop in and play some ladder games and talk a little bit. So some of the big kind of high ticket stuff that's coming up recently is the change in the traits, the recent balance patch changes, um, yeah, and then just some other tweaks. And there's a lot of stuff that hasn't actually been mentioned that I wanted to sort of highlight. So one thing that's been top of mind that I don't think I've said before is that I believe they adjusted the drop rates. And this is pure instinct. I haven't done the math on this. This is just as someone who plays the game a lot and has kind of an idea of what the drop rates should be, and then kind of what they are, as in just based on experience versus a change. So my instinct is that the and I'm rambling, sorry. In most of my older videos, I've referenced before that legendary cards tend to level up much more quickly than epic cards, where epic cards are by far the slowest to level up. I still somewhat stand by that just because of the number of copies you need versus the rarity you need for an epic card. But in terms of card drops from packs, I have noticed in my personal experience that it seems like the drop rate has been fixed to where previously I was getting a lot more legendary cards I was getting legendary cards much more quickly than I was getting epic cards, and that's been reversed. I'm getting a lot more epic cards than I used to relative to the legendaries, and it's cool. So I'm seeing a little bit more progress that way. Although that does mean that my legendary cards are progressing a little bit more slowly, which is, it's a thing. I get it. It makes sense. So, yeah. And then a couple other kind of quick notes. It does also seem like drop rates have improved dramatically for warlords. So I'm getting a lot more warlords more often as opposed to non-warlord cards. So if I get an epic, the chances that it's going to be a warlord are much higher, which is really good because warlords, there's a smaller pool, you have to use them. You can't choose a higher level card. And so I think it's a good move to make those a little bit more common. I really appreciate that. So yeah, those are both positive changes. You just saw me play a Lelith game that was extremely fast because I've got the gameplay speed boost. I've gotten so used to it, I don't even think about it anymore, but my games are so much faster. We froze. Let's see how we do. Yeah, there we go. And which is kind of funny because I actually think that does make me feel less engaged with my games. So it's much easier to talk while I'm playing because stuff happens so much more quickly, which does also mean I have less time to think in between moves. But yeah, I enjoy it. So this is my latest Lelith deck. I finally got Barrage, that level 9 secondary trait on Mogan Ra, and it's just been transformative. Love it. I'm going a little bit more melee heavy in this than I used to do, in part because I like the shields and the taunt, and the points just worked out this way. And I'd like to have target acquired, which pretty much is going to be your Torhadril, jeez, the Striking Scorpion, and I love the new model art on that one. I specifically wanted to show Lelith because I'm really enjoying her. Again, her ability is probably my favorite Warlord ability in the game, and playing her in Warhammer Combat Cards feels like Eldar is supposed to play in the lore, which hilariously makes it the only game I've ever played where Eldar play the way they do in the lore, right? In basically every other iteration of Warhammer, Eldar are in it, but you end up having to basically go in a fist fight with a Space Marine, which is something that Eldar would never do. Well, Lelith would. Most Eldar would never do that. And it's not the way they fight. They would fight from the shadows, they do sneaky crap, and have other teams fight for them. There have been a handful of narrative moments where they kind of make sense, but in terms of gameplay, Eldar have never been nailed as well as Lelith Hesperax's ability of just maneuvering and shuffling cards all around the board. I just really enjoy the mechanics of it, but also had that thought the other day where it feels very, very Eldar-y. It is funny that she happens to be Drukhari, so the dark side of the Eldar, but still, I mean, it tracks. I also think that for her, I'm glad she still has Furious Charge. I don't miss out Flank. And I will say that the change to Anti-Infantry, for her at least, has made her a dramatically improved card because there are a lot of matches where you're up against an infantry warlord. A lot of the opposing warlords are infantry. And if you're in a close match against someone like a Tolmeron or especially an Artemis, Captain Artemis can be a really bad matchup for Lelith. And if you get that end game one-on-one, Artemis has the good ranged attack and can really give Lelith some trouble, just like chipping away at her and also hitting back in melee. The anti-infantry makes her enough stronger against those matchups that I've been really enjoying it. It's been a really great piece there. Another one, too, is we saw the recent buff to Greyfax. And so I'm going to go ahead and play this. This is still my Greyfax deck, the one I've used forever. I've got level 9 of the Kulexis Assassin, which gives him the Psionic Blast, which is phenomenal. This is just still a stupidly powerful deck, and I absolutely love it. We'll go ahead and show it off. It benefits a lot from being high level, so of course it's not going to work as effectively at lower levels, but Greyfax herself I think is still very, very powerful. And I was saying she was still powerful before the recent buff she just got, where her points cost was reduced significantly, so you can run more powerful decks. So I think this deck went from like a 30-some% boost. It probably went from a 35 or something like that to a 45. So 10% extra boost, but like, look at those stats. Look at those stats on this thing. And then that too. And this has Fear. 200 hit points, Fear, and does a base damage of 100. Now, I am against Badrock, so I do want to go a little bit more durable and kind of chip away at these a bit more. So I've got my high health Inspiring Presence card, just do insane damage. Watch me lose this now that I'm talking of how good Greyfax is. But I do think that Greyfax is still really, really good, and she always was. She never really lost anything, even from the changes that nerfed her a bit. I mean, they did literally nerf her, I shouldn't say that. So she recently had some changes where her ability got much less powerful because they changed how your bonus was calculated. But then in the latest balance patch, they sort of restored her a bit where they reduced her cost, which is great because she now is no longer a target for Big Game Hunter, and she's just, you can build decks that are more efficient, or whatever deck you had built before is just more powerful because it's got a higher percent bonus now. So yeah, I definitely high on Greyfax. I think she's an excellent warlord still. And I'm glad to see her kind of rolled back a bit. Also, I really got to say, told you so in that, because when she was nerfed before, some of my speculation was that that would allow them to dial back some of the points changes and rarity limitations they'd done on her before, where they've been just creeping up her. They've been, ever since she rolled out ages ago, they've been rolling back the power of her ability, and they've been rolling up her points cost dramatically. Basically, every single update had like an incremental change to Greyfax to make her fit in a little bit better. And I think they finally settled on a way to make her just a more in line with the game kind of warlord, and I like to see that. So we'll play another one. These games have been really fast. I don't want this to be a super long video, but we'll go into it a little bit. And yeah, so I'm laddering with my Eldar, I'm laddering with my servants, just kind of enjoying the season and not really getting too invested in anything. I'll certainly make Terra, but I'm not going to try to make the top 6%. Maybe. I just realized I haven't actually looked at what the top 6% reward is this season. That may change my mind. We'll see. Yeah, that's right. You better use ranged. And look at that damage. My god. So that just stripped 3 shields and did 58 damage across the entire board. For doing nothing, it does 58 damage and strips 3 shields from every single target. Less good if you're up against something like Mozrog that has a whole lot of Enrage? Enrage? Berserk? Berserk. That'd be more of a problem, but look at that. Look at that crazy damage. Like, I will comfortably take out half these guys. And this is without the Inspiring Presence I have that I could put in the deck. And I have not lost a card in 2 games. I haven't lost a single card. Which these are lower level games, but still, like, that kind of speaks to how scary the decks actually are. And let's look at this a little bit more. There are a couple cards that stuck out that I wanted to go ahead and take a look at. I am having trouble keeping track of which cards have been dramatically changed in the past season updates. That is something I'm actively kind of... We froze up a bit. There we go. That's something I'm kind of actively having to reteach myself, which has actually made this moment a really exciting time because we've had so many card changes that it's a little bit difficult to kind of keep track of it. And every time I look at a bodyguard or a warlord, I'm like, wait a minute, they have that? Okay. So we'll go by trait. We'll go Anti-Infantry. Conveniently, the first one alphabetically. I totally forgot that Azrael has Anti-Infantry and Helbrecht as well. Wild. So all of these guys are infantry and then also have Anti-Infantry. So they all got better matchups against each other. I mentioned Artemis being a challenging matchup for Hesperax. That is even more true with Anti-Infantry. Yeah, Tolmaron doesn't at least. But then looking at these, some of these cards I forgot had it. Like this guy did change dramatically. I think I commented on him before where he's one that the Black Lance, the Tyranid, Gene Stealer, Cult's Assassin guy. I don't love this. I really don't like Poison as a secondary trait on an epic card because you have to max level it to have it actually be like useful. Anti-Infantry kind of makes sense for him and his stats are pretty terrific. He's glassy, but he's dirt cheap and has really high stats. And he could benefit from a Gosar deck beefing his melee, or he could benefit from a Zemet deck getting the most out of his ranged. Really strong card. And then looking through these, this guy is definitely an interesting one because he got an extra kind of boost there to damage to make him actually dangerous, which makes more sense than his previous stats, or his previous ability, and his stats got better to kind of make him more of an independent operator. What are some others that jump out? This one I'm still sad about. This one also had primary poison and then a secondary trait of regen, and now it's been flipped to a secondary trait of poison. At some level, I feel like the devs are trolling me a bit, where I have trash talked poison as a secondary trait, but whatever. I do think my stocks are way down on this guy. That primary trait of poison was really good. He's still good, but I just don't reach for him as much. Because I used to reach for him for the utility of having that poison on a nicely, like a good statted, relatively cheap card, and I just don't. But I should try him because Anti-Infantry is really effective because of the sheer volume of cards that are infantry. Still sad about this one too, same reasons. I took this for the tech of being poison. But then again, I took it for the kit tech of being poison when you want to take it for the tech of actually doing damage at range. So this makes more sense with what this card is on the table, and then makes it a different piece on the board. So a lot of this I wanted to look at again and think about how I could change my decks versus what I've been doing. I am bummed about this. Someone must have dunked on this guy as not being good with his double attack. I loved the double attack. It was such a crazy gimmick that he had both Furious Charge and Precision Shot. Yeah, and there was a lot of utility in that I really enjoyed that he's lost now, having just the one. He's just like a lot of other cards out there where before he was more interesting, but that's well. So I am very curious about some of the thought process behind some of these changes because they definitely dialed back on poison. So poison is something that I was using really heavily, and basically every single card that had primary trait poison or legendary poison lost it. So that's really, really tucked back quite a bit. And then some of these other cards that just were not, like Draxus, okay, that will actually boost it. They keep bringing her back, and I still think she's probably the weakest card in the game, but that is getting less and less true. Not only because now there are a bunch of epic cards that have secondary trait of poison, but also just because the Anti-Infantry really does dramatically improve her stats. So she's certainly worth another look now. But you know what, I appreciate that. I like having a reason to take all of these cards. And a lot of them are cards that I generally didn't and now will. Inspiring Prisoner, interesting. Yeah, wheels are turning. I'm going to do some more deck building around these guys, but I don't want to keep you all too late. This has been a good fun time. Hope you enjoyed the talking. I also had another revelation I wanted to go ahead and bring up where I realized that I am short 135 cards. There are 135 cards in this game that I have 0 copies of, which is a little bit shocking. And speaks a bit to kind of the aggressive rollout of the cards, where there have been a lot of cards being released, and most of them haven't actually hit the general card pool yet. And the bulk of the way that I get cards is by opening them in packs. One last thing. I know I've been talking a bunch. If you're still with me, thank you very much. I appreciate it. One kind of last closing point here. I have a handful of cards that are racing to be my first ever max level card. I believe they're all commons, with Brickfist being the current leader. He's one of the first cards that's gotten my Omni level. I need a bunch of copies, but you get these copies of these guys hand over fist. So 60 is not a crazy amount to get. So in the near future, I will probably do a quick video talking up who my top level cards are. And I wonder if there's a way to filter by level. Level? Not by level. Bummer. Come on, devs. Give me a way to filter by level. I would love that. I would like to actually be able to see, so I don't have to memorize and remember which cards are highest level or closest to getting me. I know it's tricky because epic, legendary, epic, rare, and common all have different levels that are max, but still. Let's see. Can I sort by rarity? I can sort by rarity. Yeah, let's go and do this. So I'm looking for level 12 common cards. No, what am I? No, I'm looking for, I want rare. So I'm looking for level 12 rare cards. These are ones where you don't need all that many copies to level, and you do get the copies quite quickly. So we got a level 11. If you're yelling at your screen because I missed one, I apologize. But really, it takes a long time to get there. And one of the things about Brickfist that's made him level up so quickly is he's a very common quest reward for doing campaigns. So I've gotten a lot of him. He pops up at the card shop. I keep saying that it's going to be my last thing and then having another Ramble pop up. So I got a long one today. There's another 11. I've got quite a few 11s, but the 12s are very rare. It's a 2. I'll level that up later. Whoa, love the new artwork on that guy. Nice. And there's been a ton of new artwork this month that I just haven't caught up with. It's been really cool to see that. I haven't done a lot of deck building. I've been relying on old decks, and that's something I need to fix for sure. So there's my level 12 Brickfist. So it looks like mostly they're 11s. I think I have a couple commons that are close to getting max level as well. But yeah, we'll keep an eye out on that. We'll mention it. Last thing, I promise. This is the last thing. This is the very last thing. I have been... What is that? All right, not the last thing. Wow. Okay. Ooh, another Medicae for Tau. All right. All right. Inspiring Presence and Medicae. I think all of the Ethereals have Inspiring Presence plus something else. An epic Ethereal. Cool model. Cool artwork. Interesting. So another Melee Tau. Ooh. Oh, more Melee Tau plus Inspiring Presence and Medicae is a really good combination for Melee Tau. And at the price point of 22, not bad. I'm curious to see where that card goes. But the thing I really wanted to flag is that I love the card shop. Getting 5 copies of a common for 50 gold is just such a good deal and actually lets you aggressively level these things up. Of course, they do kind of try to trick you with the 75 plasma for an epic, which sometimes is worth it. I'm real tempted if they give me a level up, but I'm not going to do it. I'm also tempted for Voldus, because you spend down plasma real fast and don't get it back very quickly. So, yeah. I made a promise that was the last thing, so I'm going to pretend that I'm not talking about something else. How I would never do such a thing. I wouldn't do it. I would not just keep talking about something else and find new things to talk about every single time I say I'm done. I'm clearly done. I'm not even talking anymore. What are you talking about? Oh, man, okay. All right, that's tempting. And, all right, so here's the thing. So they removed Barrage from the Fire Prism. I could see that being an incentive to get this one, because then you'll have another Eldari high power card that has Barrage. Or maybe the addition of this is why they took it away from the Fire Prism, because they were too similar. Yeah, scary card. Good card. I could aim for the top 6%. We'll see how I feel near the end of the season. But anyway, thank you for enjoying my total ramble. Enjoyed it. Until next time.